Welcome to Get Connected. I'm glad you can be with us, and I'm extremely happy to have my guests here. And I will introduce you from my right, and that's Gerard Wallace, and he is the staff attorney and director of the Grandparent Caregiver Law Center. And we have my senator, who is newly elected in the 21st Senatorial District, Senator Kevin Parker. And to my left is Brigitte Castellano, who is the Executive Director of the National Committee of Grandparents for Children's Rights.
Right.
I'm looking so I can make sure I don't stumble over the name because they've now gone national, and we are very happy about that. When I first joined, it was an ad hoc committee, and now it's national.
That's right.
And we have next to her, her wonderful husband, who is also a member of the Committee for Grandparents for Children's Rights, and he is the step-grandfather of their grandchild, as his name is?
Jordan.
Jordan, yes. And so we are here tonight to, we're going to be talking about the National Committee of Grandparents for Children's Rights, and also a little bit about Parents United for Justice, which is an organization that was organized by me back in 1998. And Parents United for Justice is an organization that will help biological and foster parents who have had their children taken from them unjustly, as it happened in my case. And I know that I speak with a lot of people that have had that happen to them, and sometimes they give up. But I have to tell you, never give up, no matter what it seems like, no matter how it looks, no matter how hard it is, because we know the system is unfortunately a very bad system. ACS does what they want to do, and one of the days you will hear where a lot of that will change. As we know about the children in Jersey, we know that there are many people that have children that are not treating children properly. We know that the foster families, many of them are not very good parents because they also abuse the children, and then the system do not check like they should. Now, when I started the organization, I originally had my grandson taken from me in 1996, and I fought that and kept all kinds of records. And that's the one thing that you must remember to do when something happens to you. You have to document everything. You take the names, you take addresses, you take phone numbers, you know who you spoke to that day. You write down the time, you put down everything, you document whatever you can. And we are trying very hard to get the politicians to help us in these areas. And we didn't have a lot of support in that area before, and now we're beginning to come around, and I was so pleased to be able to sit with Senator Parker, and he received me right away. His staff was helping me out. They interviewed me, and they were very kind to me while I was there.
Good.
And that doesn't always happen. I have walked into a politician's office where they don't show up. So, and I know Bridget can tell you about that also. But I'm happy to say that we are pleased. We hope that it remains that way, and whatever we can do, we will help you as much as we can. And we'd like for you to tell us about you, because when they started the redistricting, many people don't realize that now we have a whole new district in our area, and you can tell us about yourself and where you cover, because it's a lot.
Yes,
I remember
it
at
is.
your inauguration, you would stay in a whole lot of areas that so people need to know.
Yes, well, first of all, Ms. Woods, thank you very much for having me. I'm glad to be here and part of this panel with some very committed people and people who are trying to make a difference. Again, my name is Kevin Parker. I'm the new senator in the newly created 21st Senatorial District. Because of the work that was done by people all over the city in registering 2 years ago for the census, we are now in Brooklyn starting to get the representation that we need and deserve in Albany. And so they created a brand new district, and it's the newly created 21st. The state senate has gone from 61 seats to 62 seats. This district is a rectangular district in the center of Brooklyn, the heart of the universe, as we call it. And it covers Flatbush, East Flatbush, small part of Canarsie, small part of Flatlands. We cover Midwood, Ditmas Park, Kensington, and a part of Borough Park, about 2/3 of Borough Park. So if you're looking at boundaries, we go from 96th Street on the east, going west to Ocean Parkway. We go from Avenue K on the south up to Linden Boulevard. On the north, or we go up around, I guess that's Fort Hamilton Parkway over to 56th Street to take in Borough Park. I'm really proud to represent this district. This is a district that looks like Brooklyn, that looks like New York, that looks like America. Is 53% black, most of which are Caribbean immigrants. Encased in there is the largest Haitian population out in New York City, the second largest Haitian population in the entire country. I have, 23% of the district is black, is white, and much of which is Orthodox Jewish community.
Yes.
Many of which are Hasidic. We have over 5 different sects of Hasidic Jews living in the district. Probably represent more Orthodox Jews on a local level than any other non-Orthodox elected official in the city or in the country, probably. And I also represent the largest Pakistani community outside of Pakistan. And so I've been delighted to, on Friday nights, Friday afternoons, go to a mosque, on Saturday mornings go to a shul, and then to a Seventh-day Adventist church, and then wake up Sunday morning and around the corner from each other on Avenue D in Utica, go to an Anglican church, a Pentecostal church, and a Baptist church right around the corner from each other. And so it's been a great experience, and I'm looking forward to have an opportunity to work with you as we have in the past on Community Board 17 and with all of the members of my district.
Well, that's vast.
It is.
But I know you're capable. That's why my vote was there.
Well,
I believed it in my heart.
Only because I got help from people like you, that's why.
I remember when I came to the office, when I first went up to the office to meet with you, and you were running late, and you were courteous enough. I mean, your staff knew that you were on your way. And I was delighted to hear that you were at a rally for another organization about ACS. And we are having such a time with ACS. And I know there are going to be changes. And just to know that you were there already starting out.
Yeah, we're trying to get on top of these issues and make sure that the people in the district and the people around the city get the services they need and deserve from both the city and the state.
That's wonderful. And Gerard Wallace, Esquire. I know you are, besides all the other things that I know you've written books, you're just all around. And we are so pleased, too, that you're here, mainly because I know that you're not feeling well today. And made it down from Albany anyway with the fever and everything. So, but I'm not going to pay you any more money than that. But you also are attorney or advisor for the National Committee of Grandparents for Children,
and when they won the ad hoc committee, they originally met at our offices in New York. I work for the Brookdale Center on Aging, which is part of Hunter College, and we recognized that there was such a need for grandparents to have laws changed and policies changed, because the laws right now are just so ill fit for this kind of family, that rather than trying to focus on individual persons and their issues, we decided to open up an office in Albany and talk with the lawmakers up there about having laws that work for grandparents and other relatives who are caring for children. And part of that process was we needed a constituency of grandparents, and Brigitte and other leaders in the grandparent community in New York City and around the state are doing that. So they're the driving force that will make the lawmakers listen to us. So we're very happy to be here together.
Yes, that's great. And we have Brigitte Castellano. When I first met you, I was learning a lot about the, well, it wasn't a national committee then, it was an ad hoc committee.
It was a temporary committee at the time, right?
Yes, and I'm so glad to hear that they're going national. But we would like to know when the organization actually started.
Well, it actually started a year ago. Let me just backtrack a little bit, if I may. We were taking care of my grandson for 5 years, along with my daughter, who was a single mom, And 3 years ago, when she was killed in a car crash by a retired police officer who was driving drunk and on drugs, 5 days after her funeral, we were summoned into court by the biological father, who had not been present for my grandson's 5 years of life. But we went into court on a response to habeas corpus writ, which means produce the body. So we went to court the next morning, and we were told that we would have to give my grandson over to the biological father. And I said, well, wait a minute, he hasn't been present for 5 years. He really saw this child. We were the caretakers along with my daughter, and my grandson was in the backseat of the car and watched his mommy die, spoke to her before she died. And I said, for him to lose his mommy and to lose us on top of that would be just too much for him. And the judge said, well, you know what, he's 5 years old, he'll get over it. You go home and you pack up his clothing and his toys, and within an hour he had to leave. And I was just so incensed and outraged. It was just such a horror story what my grandson had to go through and what we had to go through, that I'm saying this is wrong. And there was really no organization, there were no laws that would help us. There was case law. Jerry can talk about that, Bennett versus Jeffries, but a case law, unfortunately, the judges can disregard them if they so wish, and in this case, he so wished. So in fact, for 5 months after, we were not allowed to see my grandson because he was so closely bonded with me. They put an order of protection against me and said, we need to wean him away from you. So for 5 months, we're not allowed to see or speak to him. And this is basically, I started to work to try to get some laws passed, and I met Jerry. Jerry told me there was somebody in Albany who was also working a similar thing for grandparents, and then we met someone in Brooklyn, and this is how the organization got started. And now we did go national.
That's wonderful. It's such a sad thing, the things that happen that many people don't know about. It's until it happens to someone, they really don't know what's going on here in this city. Grandparents have no rights. We have in New York State, we have a right for visitation. We can, assuming that we have standing, which means we have a relationship with the grandchild, we can petition for visitation. But when it comes to court and you need to advocate for your grandchild, we really do not have any rights. And when we don't have any rights, our grandchildren have no rights. My grandson was he wanted to speak to the president. He wanted to speak to the judge. In fact, he was assigned a legal guardian. And he told that guardian, I want to stay with Mama and Papi. And he was crying and screaming, and it didn't make any difference because they said, well, he doesn't know what he wants. So children have no voice. But isn't that a problem that's still happening?
Absolutely.
As he goes after visitation is over with you and you, Anthony.
Yes.
Isn't he still screaming, I want to go home, and because he does not want to go to?
He's actually stopped the screaming, but his personality changes on the days that we have to return him to the father, and he'll become very quiet. He holds my hand the whole way back when it's in Massachusetts, so it's a trip. And he will no longer sleep in his bedroom. The bedroom that he's been in since he was 2 months old, he will no longer sleep in his bed. He sleeps with us.
That's the sad thing about what they're doing to the children.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't seem to matter.
No.
And this is one of the reasons why we have to do something about this, because we tried to change the laws. We almost made it last May when we have rallied in Albany.
Right, we had a bill.
The bill had been unanimously passed by the Senate.
Absolutely.
And it stopped because they wanted to make some amendments in the Assembly.
Right.
And knowing that there was only 2 days, and once you change one word, that means
it was out. We didn't have a twin bill anymore.
Somehow we have to get this, in addition to changing the laws themselves, we need to somehow change the mindset of the people that they're not, children are not possessions that can be moved around, as in selling a used car or what have you. They have rights, they have feelings, and so they need to be addressed. I mean, they can't just be treated this way. And we wonder why we have so many problem children, whether it is drug problems or alcohol problems. It's, the stage has been very much set oftentimes by the system itself in creating these problems to begin with.
And what is it that we can do more of as individuals? And where can the politicians come in? Like, for instance, we started, things had passed, and then it failed because, and when you have 1 or 2 individuals in, on a judiciary committee, that can stop a bill that had been unanimously passed. I mean, how do we go about fixing something like that? I mean, it's crazy.
Senator?
Well, part of it, I don't want to cut you off. I think most of what you've done so far is really, really good and admirable. And this is very personal for me. My mother is a grandmother who took care of my nieces growing up. I actually grew up with two of my nieces like they were my sisters, and thank God that my mother never had to go through that. And so this is kind of new, because I think a lot of people were not aware, and I wasn't not aware that there was all of these kind of issues around custody. You oftentimes think that the system is logical, and it's not. They're kind of intuitive things, and we kind of need to make sure that policy has what we call policy logic, and that there's some real common sense behind the moves that we're making. And so we're going to work very hard to see that happen. I've actually looked up the bills that were passed in the last session. And I think there's an opportunity this session to get the bills adopted both in the Senate and the Assembly. I think there's a real chance.
That's great.
But unfortunately, although I've only been there 3 weeks, I'm finding that in Albany, things work. The squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Absolutely.
And you need to continue to be squeaky wheels, continue to organize. I think as individuals, the thing to do is what you've already done, which is to organize yourselves and to organize yourselves, find folks with similar concerns and who are like-minded, and bring them together and lobby on your own behalf. I'm certainly going to help trumpet the cause. I am attempting now to meet with my Republican counterpart, the chairperson of this, the family, the Committee on Children and Families, and I've talked to some folks in the Assembly, and people are very, are interested, and I think there's a good chance. But again, oftentimes things are done by, done based on the amount of attention that it's getting, and so continue to put pressure and continue to work hard and do what you've done, which is not give up hope. And I will use both myself and the resources of my office and my staff, for anything that you need.
Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you.
That's wonderful.
Absolutely.
I just want to focus for a moment on the artwork that we have here by Benjamin Woods, and
Lovely.
it is. She's really, right? She is really an angel. She's a grandmother or grandparent, because it's an angel in the form of a grandparent
I love it.
protecting the children. And we're going to be doing, we will have an art piece for every theme that we do, whether it be on Parents United for Justice, whether it be on the National Committee of Grandparents for Children's Rights, and it'll be a different piece. Whatever it is that we're speaking on, there will be another piece, because he's working very hard on his art, and he has an organization called Visual Alliance, working with children and adults, and that's another story, because he'll be back on the show. He was on the show here. Even my grandson, they're into poetry now and music, so there are many things that is being done in the arts and to help in the community. And hopefully he'll be, I could say it now, because then I have you on the spot, huh? He'll come and visit with you whenever you say.
Absolutely.
But he'll call and speak with your staff member. But Gerald, do you have?
I'd like to give you a little bit of background information. My role is to be an educator in this area. I educate not only social workers and professionals who are working in the nonprofit area and servicing the community, but also attorneys and, of course, grandparents themselves. So I'd like to give you a little background and talk about the bill for a moment, just so folks can know about it.
Right.
First of all, we mentioned the census that gave the senator his seat, and we're very happy for that.
Yeah.
But the census also had 3 questions in the long form to identify grandparents and if they're caring for grandchildren and if they're financially responsible for them. In New York State, we went from 1990 to 2000, in 10 years, from 213,000 grandparents with children living in their household to 409,000. And moreover, we went from 50,000 grandparents being responsible financially, meaning they're not getting any support from the parents for those children, to 150,000 in 10 years. There are a lot of grandparents out there raising grandchildren, and this doesn't even include aunts and uncles and even relatives, strangers who can be doing the job. Essentially, in America today, there are 500,000 children in foster care. There are 14 times that number being raised by their grandparents. The real welfare system in America today is the informal grandparents getting the job done for their families.
Yes,
And the attention by lawmakers has been to the formal foster system, and we all know the problems that has. And there's not been any attention to enabling these grandparents and assisting them. So, that being said, when I analyze the issue, I break it up into two broad categories. Are grandparents being given the opportunity to care for children, and are they being enabled once those children are in their care?
Right.
The bill that we have here is about giving them the opportunity to care, mainly because enabling is services, and we're all in a very tough budget climate right now. We know what we want to do there, but it's a harder sell. But giving them the opportunity to care, understanding that they're the best caregivers, that they're the ones with the unconditional love who can save a child. Why aren't we enabling them to get these children into their homes?
Yeah,
So this bill has two parts. One is to deal with custody issues between a grandparent and aunts and uncles, but mainly between grandparents because really they're the ones out doing the job. And parents, when the parents are really unable to do the job. Situations like Brigitte, it would be covered in this bill so that that child would have stayed in Brigitte's household. So one part, private custody disputes, giving a little more opportunity for grandparents to get to a best interest test for children. The second part, one of the most egregious things happening in the foster care arena in New York City, but certainly even more so around the rest of the state, is that when a child is removed, the grandparent will get the call, and they'll never tell them they could become a foster parent. And the catastrophic financial things that go on are, you can imagine. CDs, life savings are eaten up caring for children. The bill would say that when a child is removed, you must notify all the child's grandparents that that child has been removed. They can galvanize the forces of that family. And you must tell them that they could become a foster parent, and you must also inform them that if no one in the family chooses to intervene and the child is placed in foster care, there is a strong likelihood that the foster family will wind up adopting the child. This is an issue that's a side issue that has come more to the front in the past 4 years since the Federal Adoption and Safe Families Act was passed. The strong impetus to put children in permanent homes is having families lose their children prematurely. And it's a terrible climate out there, and I know many instances of grandparents trying to intervene to get children into their homes, but once they're placed, they're being resisted by the foster care system. So this bill is a beginning to give more rights to the family over their children so that they can intervene and save these children who are in broken homes. So that's a little summary for you, okay?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, before we're about ready to leave, however, I do not want to leave before we mention that the rally is going to be in Albany April 29th.
April 29th, we'll have buses available from Long Island through the city, going up to Albany. The price will be $10 per person. That includes a box lunch.
Can't beat it.
We'll have a press conference, and we'll get to speak with all legislators. I did want to say one thing for the bill, that we are partnering with Statewide, Senior Action, and ARP. And ARP had said this bill was the highest priority
Wonderful.
this session. Yes, so
Well,
we're very hopeful.
There's a way to get in touch with Brigitte Castellano, and the phone number it's a toll-free number, 866-624-9900, 866-624-9900. And those that need to reach Gloria Woods at Parents United for Justice, I'm at 718-531-4946. There will be numbers across the screen as we are winding down, and the senator's number is available for you to call, and I'm sure that you'll be treated like gold, because I was, so I don't think that they're going to do you any different.
They better not.
It's a it's a blessing to have had this. We want to look at the angel again, and because we have to remember that it's the grandparents that protect the children whenever the mother or father is not available, and you have a responsible and reliable grandmother or grandfather, and that's where they should be if indeed that parent is able to take care of that child. And in many instances, originally when I had my grandson at the age of 4 months old, they did not check any of my family. They just automatically put him in a foster home, and that's how I got foster kinship. But I had to fight. I fought very hard. And that's another story on another day. And we are so glad, once again, we have Gerard Wallace, who we call Jerry, and we have Senator Kevin Parker. We thank you both.
Thank you.
Brigitte Castellano and Anthony Castellano. And
Thank
I'm
you.
Gloria Woods, and we will be back. But please remember, look for the numbers, call the numbers, please be on the bus, and you don't have to be a grandparent to go to rally with us on April 29th. We will be back at you again, and we thank you so much for watching, because without you, we're just here. It's really just about a studio. It's better with us in it, isn't it? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria.
Thank
I'm
you.
stretching.